This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody, I'm Joe Castello, and Factory Stock Podcast is back. That is right. As part of WFO Radio, my weekly show, we have decided we want to focus in on one of the coolest categories in all of NHRA drag racing and, frankly, all of motorsports. You know, the folks at samtech.edu helped us launch Factory Stock Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and for a couple of years, we got to know the stars behind this sport. And then when the sponsorship change kind of fell by the wayside, but now it is being resurrected at the start of 2022, and we have got our very first winner. He won the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gatornationals for his first win in Factory Stock Showdown, Mr. Lenny Lottig, and he joins us now. Lenny, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
All right, you already win for coolest background ever on Factory Stock Podcast. That's your shop, multiple cars, looks awesome. And how does it feel to be a winner in the category?
Well, you know, it still doesn't even quite seem it was possible to make the win, because this time last year I was actually flew down to Florida and picked up my toter and swung by the Gatornationals and just hung out with David Barton and all the guys on his team there. And like I say, it was just seeing what all was going on with what was happening, and a year later end up winning the race. So it's been an overtop life experience.
That is amazing. And I got to know you and Anthony Troyer a little bit. I believe it was in Kansas. We were in rain delay and I was walking around like, that's what I do. If we have a rain delay, I go find somebody that I don't know who they are and I meet them and hang out. And you guys were super welcoming. And it was a really cool experience to see that you guys were kind of both new in the category, forging this trail in these cars that you love. And then you run each other in your final round to win the race. Like, that had to be pretty meaningful.
It was. Yep. Like I said, it's everyone in the showdown class is a great group of guys. I mean, there's not one person that's not.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about, and I've got many questions about your Barton Camaro in the category and how much fun it is to drive. We love those giant wheel stands, and clearly you experienced a couple of them. But I want to know more about how you got here. Like Aaron Stanfield, we know how he got here, right? Greg Stanfield is a long-time, multi-time world champion, and his kid is now in drag racing. We always say we got to bring new people in. You're new to Factory Stock Showdown and new to NHRA, but not new to fast cars. So give us a little bit of like how you got here.
Well, I mean, I've been a bracket racer since I was 16. I mean, the week I got my driver's license was the first time I went to our local drag strip and did regular just quarter mile bracket racing. And then it wasn't, I did that for probably about 4 years and decided to go a little bit faster. And that's whenever I took my car that I had that was a daily driver and got hooked up with Ray Barton, and because I'm a Mopar guy actually. And so it would have been like 22 years ago, I believe, I got my first Mopar from Ray Barton, and I've been a happy customer ever since. So I bracket raced, and then whenever I bought my company, which had been 15 years ago, life changes and didn't have the resources to be going racing all the time. So I kind of parked that car, and then I dabbled a little bit. I drove a good friend of mine, one of my mentors, super gas car, and had a stalker, and that's when I fell in love with a stock car with a stock class eliminations with the heads up. That kind of ruined me after experiencing the class race and a heads up. I'm like, that's just it doesn't get any better than that. And so then with getting my motors freshened up out at Barton's, I'd always be out there, and I always followed him, what was going on, from whenever David was running the Mopar and then he went to the Camaro. I mean, I'll be honest, I was kind of devastated because I'm a Mopar guy. I mean, I would eat a lot of crow 5 years ago if there'd be Camaros sitting in my garage like there is now. But hey, it is what it is. But so when I was out there actually getting my my Mopar, dropping it off to get it freshened up, which would have been the end of 2020, that's whenever actually Anthony Troyer's car was at David's shop, and there was several other ones. Falcone's car was there, Jesse's car was there, and David's car was there. And I just was, I'd always been following the factory stock, so I started talking there with Ray, and was like really getting into the, like, hey, let's go and jump into this Factory Stock Showdown. And so then it got with David, and that's how we ended up getting the car that we got built versus buying a Copo and tearing it apart, making it a Showdown. David's like, let's build a Showdown car from scratch. And so that's how, like I say, we got my car on order. And then after I actually went down to Gainesville, and and like I say, and I really hadn't followed it because of the COVID. There wasn't much going on the year before. So I get down here and I'm like, holy cow, they're going into 7 seconds. I'm like, I came home and told my wife, what the world did we get into? Because I went low nines before, but I'm like, that's a big jump. So that's whenever I was like, and my bracket car hadn't put back together yet because I was converting it from a automatic to a stick, and so that's how I ended up buying the Stalker, the 427 car, because I was like, I need something to get a little more practice before we get the Showdown car. So David then hooked me up with the 427 car. Actually, picked this one up off of Don Bell's, and had that there until, like I said, my car didn't get done. We picked my car up, and we tested it the week before Norwalk last year of the Norwalk Nationals. So when we rolled into Norwalk, my car was 7 days old, and I think that was the 7th or so full pass that ever made down the track was
Wow.
Friday night at Norwalk. So we kind of hit the ground wide open, but
so let's explain a little bit. Let's explain a little bit getting a car built from scratch, because that's possible too. I remember Daryl Herron and Bo Butner kind of went that route with Bo's Cobra Jet, and he explained, like, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to. Every car that competes in the category doesn't have to be one of the ones that it's built from the factory, but it can be built to the rules of the factory. And so, David, your car, as I understand it, is the first one that they built that way. Am I correct about that?
Yes, I bought a CRC, a Camaro rolling chassis from Chevrolet. So I wrote the check for just the chassis off of the turnkey, and then everything else I paid to David, and then David shipped all the parts out. So instead of replacing the brakes and the transmission and the axles and all of the stuff that you normally would do away with, David sent everything that how he would have built the car at his shop. So when we literally picked up the car at their shop, turnkey, a couple hours. We added a few little race pack stuff that needed added that we hadn't shipped to them, and I think we started putting the motor in on Thursday at around noon. At 10 o'clock that night, we fired it up. David Friday morning did some hits on the hub dyno at his shop, and I ran at Maple Grove, and I told David, I says, you take this thing down the track the first time. I thought, I'm not going to jump into this thing. I thought, let him know this is his gig. So the third pass, the car went into 7 seconds, and wow. I was like, oh my God. And he's like, hey, there you go. And turned me into it, and we kept easing into it, and and then it rained that weekend. We tried to do more testing at that weekend, and so we ended up, I only made I think it was literally 6 passes I made in the car. Yeah, no, five passes in the car between the rainstorms. Loaded it up, and when I qualified it in the dark, when we get to Norwalk, I was the designated pair. I was the first pair out, and then it was in the dark because of the rain. And I'm like, my God, here it is. Rain, dark, and I'm the first pair out. I'm like, it could not get any more nervous. And so then I went and I made that pass, and I can remember when I was coming back through fuel check, I kept hearing on the radio, Lenny Lottig still #1 qualifier, and I'm like, that's unbelievable, because it took like 5 or 6 rounds till someone actually outbeat my qualifying run, and I'm like, that's the 6th time the car or 7th time the car went down the track with me in it.
Who is this guy? Right. And who is this guy? Like, it might've been me, or certainly part of the collective of that. Like, Lenny Lottig. All right. He just jumps into Showdown. He's at #1. He's sitting out there. He's first out. Wow. What's going on there? But it all makes sense, because here we are not that far later. You have won a race, and you've got a very quick and fast hot rod. But I actually really like hearing you talk about being nervous behind the wheel of the car. So many fans and friends, like, yeah, you're just driving straight, right? These things are beasts, Lenny. They're beasts, small tire, very, very wicked fast. And obviously it's your personal investment. You don't want to damage it. There's a curve, right? There's got to be a curve to learn to drive one.
It's unbelievable, the curve, because my stalker will go low nines, and and it's a, I call it almost feels like you can jump and go get groceries in that. But you jump in the showdown car, best way to describe it's taking a bottle rocket, laying it on the ground, lighting it, and hoping it goes straight. It's such a fine line between a good hit and not. So well, whenever you met me at Topeka, it was, I took out the timing cone blocks, and we was pulling those monster wheel stands, and it was just going all over the place. That was actually at the Gators, that picture right there, because we never got the opportunity to run the car in that good of air, and we kept putting more weight on the front end, taking timing out of it, and the whole time at the baby Gators, I never did get a good hit on the test sessions at the Gators, because we just kept pulling them monster wheelies, and it was like, just wasn't used to having, the car making that much more power because of the good air, and just couldn't get it tamed down until, so whenever we qualified at the Gators, we was a little bit conservative. So I think I was 10th on the ladder there, because we went out being a little bit conservative, just trying to get down the track, being first out. And because David we call him, he's the coach, and he's like, we got to at least get down the track. If you spin the tires or pull big wheel stand, we're not going to, it was maybe the only hit you get. So luckily he was able to make the field. And then, second round ended up having a bye, and then third round having a bye. I'm like, I'm finally getting the luck swung to me that I'm always complaining that everybody else gets. But the nervousness on the learning curve is because the only thing I've ever done that's remotely close to this is I raced dirt bikes up until 12 years ago. And I always figured that was kind of, crazy ass.
Like motocross, supercross style.
Yes, I did GNCC through the woods.
Okay,
flying through the woods, and the trees are flying by you, at 35,
Scary.
45 miles an hour.
Crazy.
It was quite the adrenaline rush. The showdown car is the only thing in life that's giving me the adrenaline rush compared to that. So
Wow.
I say the showdown car is, because like I say, you don't know if it's going to spin the tires. I mean, when last summer we was at a divisional, and it was only the 5th race I think I even had the car at. Now I'm coming back telling David, I said, I said, at the top end, I said, the car just, I said, I don't know, something's loose. I said, I'm driving this thing at the top end. He's showing me the race pack. That's because you're spinning the tires as you're going past the 1,000-foot mark. And I'm like, oh, so that's why I was steering at the top end. I mean, like I said, they're just crazy, because it's a 9-inch tire. I mean, it shouldn't really be able to go that fast, but
well, but 1,500 horsepower or so and a 9-inch tire, it makes sense that they would be turning the tires down there. And the wheel stand, that one from Gainesville, pretty big. I mean, you're no Jesse Alexander just yet, but
I never will be. Those are too big of shoes for me to fill.
Right? This guy, man of history, he has got, as far as I know, the biggest, longest recorded wheel stands ever. But if the real super diehards like you guys within the category, I'm sure, have them all mapped out, the biggest wheel stands ever. But it's got to result in a win or a good run at the end. But yours have, and in some cases they did. Jesse also, right? But you don't know what's it like driving a car when you're staring at the sky for a long time. I know Aaron Stanfield had a couple as well, where he is just it looks like 200 feet out, still way up. How do you know where you're going?
Well, if they're not too stupid straight up, you can kind of tell a little bit out of the peripheral vision. Like when I was at Topeka, I mean, all I could think about was Rodriguez was going to hit me right in the door. I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to shoot right in front of him, and I was turning on that wheel after it came down. I thought I was going to break the steering wheel, because I'm thinking he's just going to hit me right in the driver's side door, because I thought it felt like I was clear across the track. But when you go back and the videos do no justice as how they feel in the seat. But if they, and I've lost a few races because I pedaled it, and then you're looking at the video, you're like, that wasn't that bad of a wheelie, it's like we could have rode it out. So now, like we tell everybody on the radio, I said, I don't want to lift until I hear you screaming on the radio to lift. Because when I've lost a couple races, because like John Sorbonne in St. Louis, or
Yeah.
no, uh,
He had a big one wherever that was. I think I don't remember.
yeah, no, I was in St. Louis. No, it would have been in, it must have been in Topeka.
Yeah.
Yes.
He won there. That was his win.
That to me was one of the coolest wins, because he was monster wheel stand and rode it out and finished the race, and I'm like, that was for the cool factor, that was pretty damn cool. But yeah, so I always say, no, you tell everybody on the radio, I said, I don't want to lift unless you holler to lift. And because it's, normally they do go pretty straight, because we've been tweaking with the car back and forth to try to get it to go good and straight on the wheelie bars, and then on the because that's kind of that was the last missing piece we was missing, was riding them out far on the wheelie bars, because we had a while to working with the chassis, because like I say, it's minute changes with the chassis to get them to go that straight whenever you're up on the bars.
Yeah,
so it's been a continual working process.
Everyone seems to be figuring it out. There is one thing that the popularity of the class, right? And we're going to talk about that here in a second, but I think those wheel stands are a big part of it. And I know that a really fast run, it's like a quick and fast run. You're hovering the tires a little bit off the ground, but not really having a big giant wheel stand. Probably the more efficient way to get down the racetrack. But the fans love those wheel stands, and hopefully they will always be a part of this category. Maybe it's by accident, or it's an example of, they didn't hit it perfect, but that's got to be part of it. We love those wheel stands.
Yeah, like I said, they're really cool, but sometimes they don't get you down the track the fastest. But they definitely are cool.
They are definitely cool. So, David, I guess, was going to be your opponent in the semis, was it, or no? But anyway, you mentioned you got 2 bye runs, setting up a final round against Anthony Troyer, which is really one I want to talk to you about, because David those are both of his cars. And going into the first race of the year, we had a lot of discussions about parity. I, for one, am very thankful, and to all the Ford loyalists out there that are watching this or listening to this, that are still subscribers to Factory Stock Podcast. I know things got a little sideways down, in the past. I hope you guys are back. You're appreciated and you're loved. And, I always respond negatively to the one guy on the Facebook, right? There's like 50 people who are positive, and there's one guy that's negative, and that guy ends up getting the response, which is really wrong. And I shouldn't do it. And everybody does those kind of things, but we love the Fords. I just get annoyed, Lenny, when people suggest that NHRA hates Ford and they're trying to trying to act negative to Ford people. Because it just couldn't be further from the truth. It's like the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. But that's not a mainstream opinion. Like, one guy says that, and I should know that, and that's my fault. But the Fords are back, and they're fast. And the Dodges are crazy fast, right? But you guys got down the racetrack, and you got to run Anthony in the final round. We'll talk about parity in a minute, but talk about that final round against Anthony Troyer and how meaningful it was in your first. You set your target on this, and now you had a shot to achieve it, and you ultimately did. What was it like? Take me through it.
Well, whenever we get off to the staging lanes, we didn't know that it was going to be called as the final. Because I didn't know that Warren had broke, and that I knew David had broke, so we assumed that Anthony was going to get the bye. So whenever we get up there, and that's whenever he asked us to go to the final, and I was like, oh my God. Because it's different, I think, whenever like when I was in St. Louis, when I went to the final, I knew I was going to the final. After I won against Mark Powick, I'm like, okay, I knew him. So I had, 70 minutes or an hour to pump up to, like, this is the final, where now I'm in the staging lanes, and they're like, hey, you ready to go? We're running the final.
Right. Why run 2 bye runs? Like, what's the point of that? You guys are both here. You're the finalists. Your opponents are going to be broken. Let's just run it. Let's get it done, especially on a weird weekend like we had in Gainesville.
Exactly. And plus, so I had, 5 minutes there running through of, because going to the final, I mean, I'll be honest, when we saw how fast the Mustangs and the Fords were, I'm thinking, whew, this is going to be kind of a bad weekend for us. But all of a sudden here I'm in the staging lanes, like I'm in my final, I'm in the final, and it was against, Tater. And and we always laugh. We said, we're all here, it takes a village to race these cars. And we all want to help each other out. But I said, from the water box to the return line, all I want to do is make smashed taters. And and I was even a little bit, I'm not going to say, well, I would say, nervous going up against, because he'd been killing the tree
Yes.
all weekend. And so like I was, trying to like just hit the tree. So, I ended up getting a good light. And because like I say, he was just killing the tree. And I was just thinking, my gosh, if I go, because I'm thinking this is going to be the second final I go out to. And if I lose this one 2 in a row, I'm just going to be so aggravated at myself. And the card swung my way. But it was, to be up against Anthony, because like I say, we both pretty well were greenhorns at it this year or last year. And, and we both have come a long ways in last season. But, we all surround ourselves with good people, with, everybody that David already has on, and say the Barton team, those are all good guys, good racers, and I'll give a good advice. So it was, like I said, it still didn't seem quite possible that we was into a final.
But you did it, and you won, and it was like the whole team won, and Anthony's going to get his day as well. I have no doubt about that. You guys are in it for the long haul, and just great. How did you celebrate? Right? It was like I said, it was a weird weekend, but all of a sudden, just like that, you're the winner. What was the Lottig celebration party like?
Well, after we got back, because we wasn't sure if it was going to be a rainstorm or not, so we went and put all the cars away. We actually, all of us went out with Anthony's family and uncle, and so we all celebrated. We went to some little restaurant down the road there from Gainesville, and we actually took Wally with us, because I'm like, this dude is partying with us all night long, and it was hilarious. We go to the restaurant, and people are coming up and are like, we've never seen a Wally before, because most of the people at the races was at the restaurant. So it was, we had so much fun that night out with the carrying the Wally around with us. It was a good time.
Oh, that's great. Now, congratulations. And who's this?
That is Louie. He's my BFF. Yeah, he goes with me to work every day, and he goes with us to the races. And so, we couldn't take a picture without having him there, because he helps, whenever we're kind of nervous, he goes and he comes up there and kind of helps calm the nerves down. Because like I say, every time I go racing, I make sure he's in the toter, and always give him a little bit of loving before I go out the door. And yeah, I think, he could be a little bit of a good luck charm.
Okay.
Well, and for calm the nerves.
For those that are listening audio only on Factory Stock Podcast, it's a photo of his dog, right? He's awesome. What was his name again? Louie? Louie. I like it. He's got a shirt. He's got a team shirt. It looks like it was made special for him too.
Well, we keep him in. He's one of the family.
That is great. He's got his Constant Aviation hat on. That is cool. So great win. I want to turn our attention to a couple of different subjects, as in those other fast Fords and Mopars and 4-wide Factory Stock Showdown. But before we do that, your great weekend of winning in Gainesville, kind of a little bump in the road on your way home. What happened?
Well, whenever we were going to this race, our daughter was scheduled to have a C-section the Thursday after the race. And it was all supposed to be good, because my wife was going to have to go and take care of their other baby, who was 14 months old. And she was supposed to do it on Wednesday. Within the rain delay, everything gets pushed back. So then we're finishing. We ran stock then with the Sportsman's on Monday. So it was about 1:30 in the morning or afternoon. We leave Gainesville, and we stopped at Georgia to get fuel up the truck and let Louie out, and because it was 3:30, 4 o'clock, something like that. There, wife comes in the truck, and Holly just went into labor, emergency surgery. It was all this paranoia. So we shut the door and didn't open up again until we were in DC to Route 7 on 270. So 3:30 in the morning, I'm unloading the car so the wife can take the little Fiat to go meet the daughter and the new grandbaby, and I'm trucking on home. Only had 2 more hours to get home. Well, was tired, and a brand new race shop, and the road that goes around the back of the building, we actually had construction equipment sitting there, so I was a little bit tight getting through, and the trailer going into the mud. And a smart guy would have said, whoa, let's back up here. Not me. I just floored the truck and tried to power through it, and didn't happen. So it tore up the corner of the trailer, tore up the truck. So I literally just got the trailer fixed over the weekend. I finished putting this new stainless on it, and actually I fixed the truck the way Renegade should have made it from the beginning. So it's better than new now.
There's spikes and weaponry under there, just in case anybody
Yes.
crosses you. And well, listen, you got every racing story's got to have like a little bit of a, bump in the road. But everything turned out okay with your daughter, most importantly.
Oh yeah, yep. Daughter was good, little baby boy, so he's growing like a weed now. So
Let's
it
see.
was,
So you win your first race, and your grandson is born within days.
Less than 24 hours later.
How great is that?
And it was my birthday month in March. So, because last year when we were down there, everybody on the Barton crew was laughing because I said I don't celebrate birthday, I celebrate birth month because I had a new race car come and I picked up a toter and a trailer down there in Florida. I said I'm celebrating a birth month of March. So winning the Gators, that was like I said, hey, I'm starting off my birth month here, celebration.
I love it. I love it. All right. So I'm looking at the point standings for everybody out there. Lenny leads the points. It's only 112-91 over Tater Troyer. Anthony Troyer is a potato farmer, guys. And so that's his nickname is Tater. It is low. Warren Walcher is third, 76. David himself, 73. Powick, 58. He's got a fast car. Bill Skillman, Ricky Horde, Trip Carter, Aaron Stanfield, last year's champ and the back-to-back champ, sitting on ninth. Stephen Bell, 10th. And we got a lot of cars that are capable of winning. So give me your thoughts on parity right now. Looked like the Mopars are fast. They showed more than they wanted, but it was crazy air. The air was so good. It was so, it was an anomaly race. What do you think about the lay of the land right now as you get ready for the next race, which will be Charlotte?
I mean, you look at the mile an hour that both the other brands are putting up. And, I mean, it looks to be a consistent, because even comparing it to the NMCA race they did the week after, it does look like there's, 400 to 600s between the two other brands and the Chevrolets. But, we don't really want to complain. We just need to work a little bit harder to make that up.
Right.
So,
well, and we'll see. The sample size is just not big enough yet. We got to see what's going on. But yeah, Trip Carter had a fast car, and Powick's car is crazy fast, and we'll see. But you guys proved that getting down the racetrack and great reaction times can end the day. Okay, so I'm under the impression, and forgive me for I believe you guys are going 4 wide in Charlotte. Is that as you understand it as well?
That is what David Davis told us when we was at Vegas, that we were going to go 4 wide, and that we were going to have an extra qualifying session to help.
4 sessions.
They said, yeah, 4
everybody's got to
sessions.
get a shot in every lane, just like we did with the alcohol cars in Vegas. And I know there's a faction of people out there that are not into the 4 wide, but look, whatever, you don't have to watch that weekend, right? I love it. And the idea of seeing you guys, a Dodge, a Mustang, a Camaro, and then another Dodge, say, go wheels up at the hit, high 7s, 178, 180 miles an hour. That's going to be crazy fun. And now as the points leader, you've got to be thinking about what's possible. So what do you say, Lenny? What's possible for you and your team this year?
Well, anything is possible. That is for sure. And, and as we could tell, how you qualify doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the one that wins. So, it does take some luck, and it takes, some good planning. And so, I mean, I'm coming out of the gate swinging like this here now. I'm feeling very confident that, we can be a contender this season. Because we kind of figured out some things there later in the year last year, and so I'm looking forward to hopefully help keeping this points lead up in front, because at least for one thing, it's better to be chased than it is to be catching.
Absolutely.
So,
and given the schedule being relatively limited percentage wise, like one win makes a big difference. Top 10 in points, top 5 in points, top 2 in points. Like, who knows? Those guys are chasing you. And Aaron Stanfield, who has been the king of the category a couple of years in a row, has fallen way behind. He's going to have to make up a lot of ground, but there's a long way to go, and we'll see what happens in the 4 wide. Now, Lenny, before we let you go, and folks, these new Factory Stock podcasts can be a little shorter, a little tighter, get to know the driver, all about the driver. That's it. And we encourage you to subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, follow us on WFOradio.com and enjoy the show as best as you can. But there's a new category coming, Factory X. And from what I understand, Lenny, you're now hopelessly hooked on Heads Up Drag Racing, and you're going to go a Factory X as well. So people are worried that Factory X may somehow affect factory stock. I'm not worried about that, but some people are. Just give me your, like, why did you want to be involved? And now are you going to be involved in both? Like, how are you going to handle this? And what's the status?
Oh, I'm going to definitely be involved in both. I mean, I think there may be some people that may just leave the factory stock and just concentrate on the FX. But to me, my theory is, hey, that's twice as much fun. So, I mean, I'd be racing 3 if they let us run 3 cars. I'd be running that and my stalker, but 2's the limit. But yeah, we have, because like I say, with having the same engine rules as the showdown, so it kind of made sense to go with the to jump in with the FX class. So looking
Right.
forward to that because hopefully we're going to have a couple cars here running out of the Barton camp. 3 or 4 here shortly, hopefully, and because there's some other cars on order, and we're just trying to get the feeling out of how it's going to be and what's involved, and before everyone else jumps in. But I think if some of the people do go and leave the showdown and go into the FX only, that'll help open the door for some other people to have room into the 16 car field to to where it won't be such a tight, because it's, as you can see, there's a kind of a if you're running a single car by yourself, it is a little bit more difficult to make the upper end of the qualifying field.
It is
showdown.
And for those that don't know, and you haven't seen these guys, they got to swing an engine every once in a while, and it does. You said it earlier. It takes a village. It really does. And the Stanfield's got a village, and the DSR guys, they've got they don't have a village. They've got like a city, and and you guys have got a group. When something goes wrong on one car, everybody dives in to help out. But there's a feeder system, and I think this is great with these engines, and I'm super excited about Factory X. And, the question is, like, who's going to have the first car we're going to see? Are you near the front of the line? Who's building your car?
Jerry Haas, and I'm number 6 on the line.
Okay.
With Jerry. And, when I talked to him, he called me after winning the Gators, and we were just talking, and he congratulated me about winning the race. And he said my car should be late season. It'll be we'll be testing over winter. It won't be here late summer like we were kind of hoping for, but it'll be and it's mainly because of the carbon fiber parts that's getting the okay blessings between NHRA and the manufacturers. And actually that just happened
in Phoenix
after the Gators.
Oh, okay. Because I know they were doing some preliminary measurements in Phoenix, so I was like, okay. And so I guess they've locked them in now. And that all takes time for the impatient among us. We all want to see it. Are you ready for the Liberty? Are you ready for that? Like, I love these engines, like the best of factory stock, the engine, and then the best of pro stock, the clutch and the 5-speed. I think that's going to be pretty
it's
special.
going to be, because I mean, I'm a believer in real cars have 3 pedals in them.
Yeah.
And so because I actually was converting my bracket car over to it'll be a mid 8-second car door slammer with a 5-speed in it, and so that just now is even be a little bit better, so I can at least be banging the gears here this spring with my bracket car, getting used to ripping off 5 gears. But I was doing a little contemplating on it. You're getting 4 shifts essentially in 4 seconds, because you figure by the 8th mile you're going to be in high gear, so that's going to be a little over 4 seconds. You're rowing 4 gears, so that should be pretty exciting stuff.
It is going to be very exciting. And I love what they're doing with Factory X. I love Factory Stock Showdown as well. The power windows and all that, like a stalker, whereas Factory X is going to be stock dimensions, which is so important in my opinion. And then a lot of pro stock style raceability.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope they make the cars looking stock.
Yes.
I mean, the one-piece front end, I know for maybe cost or for whatever reasons, I can justify that. I mean, like, I wish they had an opening hood versus a one-piece front end, just because I want them to look like a real car.
They got to look like a real car. And everybody out there, if you're listening to Factory Stock Podcast, you probably agree. And that's the one thing, like, not that I have any beef with a modern pro stocker. I love them as thoroughbred, amazing machines. But if I bring someone to the track that's not a drag racing fan, they might not know what it is. Whereas it's important that your car, nobody has any doubt what it is. They've seen one. They rented one. A friend of theirs has one, a Camaro. Maybe they've got one. And that identity, I believe, is very important. So we're going to get back there, I think, very soon.
Yeah, because I mean, 20 years ago, I always said I would margin my life success with if I could either run a pro stock car or an AH Hemi car, because again, like I said, I was always a Mopar Hemi guy, and I always said, but now I was like, after I my choice would not be to have the pro stock, just because they look more like a morph off of a pro mod.
Right.
So,
well, and it's definitely goes in between, and evolution. We're going to get there. We're going to figure it out, and the market will decide, right? I think fans definitely want to see it. And so are you a Chevy guy now, or are you a Barton guy? I think you're a Barton guy, and whatever David's like into, you're going to just listen to David.
Hey, I mean, for 20 some years, they've always given me good bullets to put down the chamber. So I say now, if David said I need to paint the bottom of my engine pink, it will make it go faster, I'd be buying the pink paint and putting it underneath, because I will not deviate from what he says, because I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, here I am, a greenhorn, and he gave me the car and gave me the directions of what to be doing, and I can follow his directions about 65% of the time, but because the other time I just screw up and make dumb mistakes. But David's always telling me, keep making the same mistake over and over. We can correct what you're doing. So just be consistent in your mistakes. So I can do a lot of mistakes. I just have a hard time being consistent and making the same mistake.
I got it. Well, listen, Lenny, congratulations. It was great to see you and Anthony battle in the final round. You get the first win. Certainly, an underdog story in that race. And I wish you great luck for the remainder of the season. We're going to have a fun year covering it. We're going to have a fun year watching it. Charlotte is not far away. I will see you there. And thank you for joining us here on this edition of Factory Stock Podcast presented by WFO Radio. And I'm excited for the rest of the year. You got me more excited. A little bit of a big break in between the first and the second race. But once we get going, we'll be going good.
All right. Thank you again. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, Lenny. Lenny Lottig with us here on Factory Stock Podcast. And that's going to do it, folks. Stay locked in. Factory Stock Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. Of course, you can always follow me, WFO Joe, on WFO Radio. And stay up with the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series, Lucas Oil Series, and now Factory Stock Showdown. We'll see you next time on Factory Stock Podcast.
This is WFO Radio.